Hello everyone, I am Sandhya Kumari from third year MBBS, and the topic that I'll be covering today is hemostasis. What is hemostasis? It is the process to prevent and stop bleeding, and it is classified into primary and secondary hemostasis. Primary hemostasis consists of two stages, the first one being the vascular spasm, and the second one is the platelet plug formation. Okay, and secondary hemostasis comprises of the coagulation cascade. So vascular spasm, whenever there is any injury, okay, so the vessels that are supplying that particular area, they get constricted, hence reducing the blood flow to the site of injury. So yeah, this is to minimize blood loss. Okay, and this process is further enhanced by endothelin, which is a powerful vasoconstrictor secreted by these endothelial cells in response to an injury. Take care. And platelet plug formation. Now, whenever there is injury, take care, so the endothelium gets damaged. सही है. This exposes the collagen जो कि नीचे की तरफ होता है. ठीक है. Now, this exposed collagen activates or stimulates platelet activation. ठीक है. So platelet activation leads to change in their shape. ठीक है. उनका shape changes and they release certain secretory granules that cause recruitment of additional platelets. ठीक है, मतलब और platelets आके वहां पे जमा हो जाते हैं. ठीक है, and they undergo aggregation. ठीक है, forming this primary hemostatic plug, also known as the primary platelet plug. ठीक है. Now we'll talk about the secondary hemostasis, which comprises of the coagulation cascade. ठीक है. Now this coagulation cascade is involved in the formation of fibrin mesh, ठीक है, which strengthens this primary hemostatic plug. ठीक है. Now this coagulation pathway comprises of two pathways, the extrinsic pathway and the intrinsic pathway, which eventually merge into one. ठीक है. So first we'll talk about the extrinsic pathway. ठीक है. So extrinsic pathway gets activated whenever there is any trauma to the vessel wall. ठीक है. Or in other words, you can say when the injury is outside the vessel. ठीक है. So the damaged tissue, or you can say the damaged vessel, it secretes this tissue factor, which is the factor number 3, also known as thromboplastin. ठीक है. In response to trauma, the tissue or the vessel, it secretes tissue factor, which is also known as thromboplastin. ठीक है. Now, one important thing about this thromboplastin is that this is the only factor which is secreted by tissue. ठीक है, secreted by tissues. ठीक है. All other factors are plasma proteins which are synthesized in the liver. ठीक है, this is the only tissue factor. बाकी जितने भी factors हैं, these are plasma proteins synthesized in the liver. ठीक है. Now, this thromboplastin in turn activates factor number 7. ठीक है, factor number 7 gets activated. ठीक है. Now, this factor number 7, activated factor 7, along with tissue factor in presence of calcium ions, activates factor number 10. ठीक है. Tissue factor along with activated factor 7 in the presence of calcium ions activates your factor number 10. Now activation of factor 10 is the common point in extrinsic and intrinsic pathways. ठीक है, as you can see over here, कि inactive factor 10 gets activated. Now this is the common point in extrinsic and intrinsic pathways. ठीक है, इसके बाद here, this is the point where they merge into one. Okay. Okay, so activated factor 10 combines with factor number 5, सही है, and the tissue factor, सही है, along with these calcium ions. ठीक है. These 4 things are responsible for the formation of prothrombin activator. I'll repeat. Activated factor 10 along with factor 5, your tissue factor, and the calcium ions. These are responsible for the formation of prothrombin activator. ठीक है? Now this prothrombin activator basically converts prothrombin in the presence of calcium ions into thrombin. ठीक है? This is the inactive form and thrombin is the active form. ठीक है? Now one thing about factor 5 is कि at first the factor 5 in the prothrombin activator complex is inactive. ठीक है? जब ये prothrombin activator शुरू में बना रहा होता है ना, तो ये अपनी inactive form में होता है. ठीक है? But once this thrombin starts forming, सही है, this activates factor 5, सही है, and this activation of factor 5 becomes an additional strong accelerator of this prothrombin activation. ठीक है? ये इसको एक्टिवेट करता है और ये स्पीड अप कर देता है इस प्रोसेस को, मतलब और ज्यादा थ्रोम्बिन बन रहा होता है. ठीक है? दिस इज योर पॉजिटिव फीडबैक मैकेनिज्म. ठीक है? अच्छा, नाउ थ्रोम्बिन के आगे वाला. ओके, सो थ्रोम्बिन तक हमने डिस्कस कर लिया. सही है? नाउ दिस थ्रोम्बिन बेसिकली कन्वर्ट्स फाइब्रिनोजन इनटू फाइब्रिन. ठीक है? Now thrombin has another role as well, which is that it activates factor 13, सही है, which is also known as a fibrin stabilizing factor. ठीक है? This factor causes the polymerization of fibrin molecules, forming fibrin polymers. ठीक है? And it also forms cross links between the fibrin polymers. ठीक है? Making them more stable. This is what we want, right? हम लोग को चाहिए मतलब कि फाइब्रिन मेशवर्क बने which is going to basically strengthen the primary hemostatic plug. ठीक है? तो वो जितना स्टेबल होगा वो उतना हमारे लिए अच्छा होगा. ठीक है? Okay, so this was all about the extrinsic pathway. Now we'll talk about the intrinsic pathway. ठीक है? अच्छा, now your intrinsic pathway is activated when the trauma is inside the vascular system. ठीक है? मतलब when there is trauma to the blood or the collagen gets exposed. ठीक है? Now this exposed collagen stimulates the activation of factor 12. ठीक है? Your factor 12 gets activated. ठीक है? Now this activated factor 12 acts on factor 11. सही है? Thus activating it. ठीक है? Now this step requires high molecular weight kininogen. ठीक है? And this step is accelerated by prekallikrein. Okay. Okay. Acha, now this activated factor 11 acts on factor 9 in the presence of calcium ions. Activates it. ठीक है? Okay, wait. Activated factor 11 in the presence of calcium ions activates your factor 9. Okay, so this activated factor 9 along with calcium ions and these platelet phospholipids जो यहाँ से आते हैं trauma to the vessel से. ठीक है? And activated factor 8. ठीक है? Activated factor 9, calcium ions, platelet phospholipids, along with activated factor 8, activates your factor number 10. ठीक है? As I mentioned, the activation of factor 10 is the common point in the extrinsic and intrinsic pathway. तो आगे का जो pathway that we discussed remains the same for the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway. ठीक है? So this was all about the extrinsic and the intrinsic pathway. ठीक है? Now these are the names of the clotting factors. ठीक है? अच्छा, this factor 10 is also known as your Stewart factor. ठीक है? This is important. अच्छा, now we'll talk about the clot dissolution. ठीक है? Basically your plasminogen gets activated into plasmin by this tissue plasminogen activator. ठीक है? देखो, tissue plasminogen activator is a naturally occurring fibrinolytic agent found in the endothelial cells of the vessels. ठीक है? जो कि plasminogen को activate कर देता है into plasmin. ठीक है. Now this plasmin is responsible for the conversion or for the breakdown of fibrin into soluble fragments. ठीक है. This process is also known as fibrinolysis, or it is known as the clot dissolution. देखो, now this process is very important. सही है. This plasmin basically जो कि fibrinolysis कहलाता है, ठीक है, because there needs to be a balance between thrombolysis and thrombogenesis. सही है कि अगर क्लॉट बन रहा है तो बाद में उसका ब्रेकडाउन होना भी is equally important. ठीक है. So this was all about the coagulation cascade. If you guys have any questions, you can message Kanza. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.